Welcome to today's episode of the Cross Labs podcast, On My Mind.
What do you guys think about all these doomers that are saying AI is gonna kill us all sooner rather than later?
I am obviously very skeptical that there's even this thing called a singularity, right? It all just sounds like the Terminator movies or social anxiety that's getting projected onto technology because it's sort of new and we don't really know what's going to happen with it. I'm sympathetic, but I don't see it being the end of humanity.
I think actually very likely the reason why it resonates so quick with us, general public, is because we have seen so many Black Mirrors in our lifetime that we are already predisposed to think, yeah, of course, if there is an intelligent creature, of course it will try to kill me. But I actually don't necessarily see what's the connection there. I saw recently a quote from like this person, I forgot the name, very famous, that left Google, saying something around the words of, there has never been a species that has been dominated by another species less intelligent. Probably, yeah, but I don't see what's the connection between, okay, AI is super intelligent, then that's the end of humanity. If that's the case, then there would be just one species on Earth and period, that's it. Like the entire planet would be dolphins or humans or something.
Yeah, but I think it's more related to a fear of not being special anymore. Because humans in general like to be on top. So as long as we're special or as long as we're the best one or the most intelligent on the planet, then it's fine. But if something comes to threaten that, then yeah, obviously it's just to kill us, because what else would it do? But to your point, if an AI isn't given the goal of doing harm to humans, I don't see why all of a sudden we just spontaneously say, okay, well, humans are bad, maybe we should just all kill them. Why wouldn't the AI just ignore us?
Yeah, I mean, they have arguments for this. I think there's two reasons to be against these things. And one is the general public is kind of scared, which is like a common thing with new technology. But then there's also these people that are very worried for kind of technical reasons, maybe. That have been very worried about this maybe for 20 years, like Eliezer Yudkowsky and these people. I mean, what they say is that they have this concept of convergent instrumental goals. So instrumental goals are the kind of sub-goals that you want to achieve in order to be able to achieve your ultimate goal. So one example of an instrumental goal is make money. Lots of people want to make money, not because making money by themselves is the goal of most people, but because once you have a lot of money, there's many goals that become easier to achieve. So the reasoning is kind of, yeah, so this AGI will have some goal, but that means it will have instrumental goals. And among those instrumental goals is maybe being in a position to achieve this other goal. If this instrumental goal, like maybe if it's like having a lot of energy, for example, then it's going to take away the energy of the humans.
Yeah, why wouldn't it just find another niche like any other species? I mean, we're limited to the oxygen or to the food that we can produce, but why wouldn't an AI, if it's embodied, for example, just use other sources of energy that the humans can't, but that is plentiful on Earth?
Give me an example.
I mean, if a machine is so intelligent or so much above humans, what stops it from nuclear fusion or nuclear fission and having so much electrical energy that it benefits us, it benefits them? Even if we don't share our resources, for example, with our pets, we don't necessarily harm them just for the fun of it. Why would an AI that is satisfied with the resources that it has go out of its way just to harm humans or just to harm any animal on the planet?
I guess what they say is it doesn't matter. It will not have to go out of its way. It will just have to stay within its lane, basically. But its lane will eventually converge to be the same lane that humans are on. And then that's when the problem starts. Maybe it considers us like ants, just like we do, but we don't want the ants in the kitchen. I don't know, or we don't even care if some ants die if we put some concrete into our garden, I don't know, to have a basketball court or whatever.
I was talking yesterday with Nicholas about this, and he said like the position of saying AI is gonna doom us is basically Pascal's wager. If you say AI is going to destroy us, if it doesn't, then I'm glad I was wrong. If it does, it's I told you. But then if you are in the position of, AI is not going to destroy you, and it doesn't, it's like, yeah, of course. But then if it did, it's like, dude, we're doomed because of you. If I were in a position of respect in academia, which definitely I'm not, I would also say, yeah, eventually AI is going to destroy us, because it's literally the easy statement to make.
So one thing I also wanted to add was, in order for a big AI, for it to maintain itself, it would have to have some sort of mining capabilities and factory capabilities to replace parts. And I would assume that it would need some parts of the ecosystem to stay intact. And then the doomers would say, well, then it replaces those sorts of things, right? And then the question becomes, would it be cheaper for it to replace it, or would it just be cheaper for it to maintain what's already there? Because it seems like it would be a waste of energy to replace all of the bees when you have perfectly good bees in the first place. It just seems really energy inefficient to do like this Terminator doomsday, we're going to replace everything scenario. What is it spending its energy on? If the goal is just to like waste a bunch of energy, that's not very smart, is it?
The first contact that mass public is having with smart AI is, of course, all the diffusion models for graphics, but also large language models, right? And since these large language models have been trained in a lot of literature that we have written, and we always tend to like this doomsday literature, I have no idea. I have never seen a movie in which is the Terminator but happy. It's like a Terminator that just makes life easier for us. That wouldn't sell as a movie, so we write like 0.1% of the literature on that. So if we are having a conversation with this agent that only spits out statistical inference on the stuff that it's been trained of course at some point it's going to come dark, and it's going to tell me I should divorce my wife, and it's going to tell me like all the examples that we see on the like large language models conversation. But that doesn't mean that is what any AI is thinking out of its own agency. My understanding is that that's a statistical model. So I feel like we're failing on understanding that. If we fed this model, at some point you're going to kill humanity, then, well, at some point it will kill humanity. Yeah, of course. But I don't think the current LLM architecture is very far from being AGI at some point.
So it's almost as if we're afraid of these AI models because really they're a reflection of us, and we're afraid of ourselves. I think that's what Hollywood is always saying, that if we design these things based off of corporate needs, right, which doesn't really put the well-being of people first most of the time, then we're going to suffer immensely if we base an AI off of that model, because really what we're afraid of is we're afraid of ourselves.
I mean, I think this comes into it, both of those things that you mentioned, Alyssa and Oneris, but I'm not so sure. I think like these kind of, let's call them technical doomers, they have all these very kind of technical arguments why it's going to happen. And that's not necessarily because they misunderstand the large language model is going to tell all these horror stories, because that's what it's been trained on. I don't think that's...
Oh, but didn't that happen with the guy from Lambda?
Yeah, but the guy from Lambda is just not representative. I have a meeting now anyway. I have to kind of jump out.
Of the second floor?
It's the third. I would land on top of this ramen shop. I think I would survive. It has this thing that goes up. You can roll out.
That thing is only a trampoline in the movies. You will definitely die.
But it's exactly that kind of thing, man. I mean, I gotta survive that. It's not that far. I recently thought about this when I was on my balcony.
Oh my God.
That's it for this week's episode of the Cross Labs podcast, On My Mind. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll be the first to know when the next episode is out. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.